everybody. Welcome. Happy Friday to those who are watching live on Friday. And I hope you're having a good day, whatever day you're watching, if you're watching this on a recording. My name's Eric. I'm your host for today, the founder, principal developer of UserBus. And I'm excited to present this webinar on how you can automatically set Blackbaud contact emails in contact cards from Google. So when you're creating a Google user, you can automatically take whatever email address from that Google user and copy that over into the Blackbaud contact card. Okay, a couple quick items. This is live, so you can interrupt me at any time in the chat. There's about a 30-second delay or so it might take me a little bit to notice. And the video recording will be public, but your presence here and your chat messages will not. So just know you have that little layer of privacy there. All right, so about us, real quick here. UserBus is something that I started back in 2014 before it was called that, but I was integrating for a school that I worked for as the IT director here in Michigan. And I came to, start selling these syncs to other schools and eventually went full-time on that back in 2022. So we're based in Michigan here, and we serve Blackbaud schools across the U.S. So some of the schools that we serve are in the list here. And if you're here joining us, welcome, and welcome to anybody who is new as well. Okay, so to the topic at hand, auto-setting contact card emails. Let me explain what I mean by this. So a lot of schools in their new user provisioning process, they have some steps like this. This new student comes into the school, and the student doesn't have an email address with the school yet, right? So they have to come up with an email address for the student. So somebody may go out to Google and look at the email addresses in Google and say our usual naming convention is first.last at our domain. And now we're going to do that, but maybe there's already a student who has that email address, so we have to choose a different one. Let's say that there's two, Johnny Smiths. We're going to have maybe Johnny.Smith for our first one, and then next year somebody else comes. Now we've got Johnny.Smith.1, or however we choose to disambiguate those two students. Then we're going to create a Google account for them. And lastly, we'll set the contact card email in Blackbaud to whatever email we've chosen. So some schools have certain steps in this automated, and some have to do the manual. For example, as you're checking for an existing email address in Google, maybe you have a sync solution already that does that. And maybe you can also check to see if there's a collision, and if there is, you'll set the one. You can create the new student's accounts. That's also automated for some schools. Then you have to remember to put their Google email address in their contact card in Blackbaud. And you have to type and copy or paste correctly. So, like I say, the first few steps sometimes are often automated for schools, but the last two, I don't believe there's any other sync solution that has those automated right now except UserBus. So that's what this is about, but also kind of just the general flow of how you would do this. So the nice thing about automating this is you can make it more consistent if there's any question. As in some schools have it this way where they want it to always be the student's school address in their primary email field in Blackbaud, but sometimes it slips through that it's actually, it's a personal address this time. And we just did this with a school where they've been doing it manually, and there was maybe, a dozen or two that they had the personal addresses. So this makes it more consistent. Also saves time. If somebody is doing this manually right now, you can get it so that it's automatic. And it improves accuracy, so if there's any typos, it'll get rid of those by automating it. All right, so let's see what this looks like. I've got Blackbaud here, and let's start there. I've got this user in Blackbaud named Jonagold Honeycrisp III, and this is a student, and we've got this as a new Blackbaud user. They don't have an email address yet in their contact card. If I scroll down here, they've got the preferred name John, and they've got everything else is set here, but they don't have an email address. So now let's look at Google, And here in Google, we have, oops, let me refresh this because I think that's some old test data. There we go. We don't have a username Johnny Gold Honeycrisp yet. So the idea is this is going to go through a user provisioning process and we can see what it would do. So let me also bring up user bus now. Move this over here. All right, so in user bus, this is the user bus web portal if you haven't been in there, and this is where we would set this up. We've got a Blackbaud Google Workspace sync, and this is the umbrella that this falls under. I can click on this, and then this is what will create the user in Google and figure out their email address, and then it'll take that and put it in the Blackbaud contact card. So let me click preview here. We'll see what it would do. And this is all configurable, how it generates the email address. Some schools have first.last, some schools have first initial, last name. So we can really set it up in whatever way you're doing currently to make sure it matches that. Give it a couple seconds here. All right, so I can click on that, and then I can go to the Plan tab here to see what it did. What it would do, because this is just a preview. So it wants to update that Blackbaud user, and this is their ID, and it wants to set their email address to, this is the format we have for the test sync here, johnnygold.honeycrisp at this domain. And it also wants to create that user in Google. Okay, so this looks good. It's generated the address it wants to create. So let's run a live sync. And while it's running, I'll just go back, and again we can refresh here and see that you're right. It hasn't done it yet, and their email address was blank. Whoops, let me go back here. Okay, so let's see where we are. All right, it's finished. So let me refresh and see what we get here. All right, so that's good. So it set their email address in Blackbaud, and let's make sure that that's the email address that it put in Google. And it is. And you'll see it used their preferred name here. That's configurable too. We could also have it use their legal name. All right. So great. So that is the gist of how it works, the happy path, right? There's no existing user with that email address. So we've eliminated the step of somebody having to copy that over. But let's look at the less happy path, still hopefully a happy path, because hopefully it'll work. But if we have a collision, so let's set that up and see what that would look like. So I'm going to come here, and first let me blank out their email address. So we're putting them back in the status of the new user. And then I'm also going to go to Google, and I'm going to delete this user that it just created. And what we'll do is we're going to create a situation where, let's say that there's a user from a prior year who has this email address. I'm just waiting until the user disappears. There we go. Okay, so this is simulating, let's say we have a Johnny Gold Honeycrisp in our school already, and in prior years we weren't using user bus, but we created this email address for them manually. So we have a Johnny Gold, yeah, we have that email address in Google. Okay, so this should show up here in just a second. And now let's go back to user bus and see what happens. I'll just do a live run for the sake of time instead of a preview this time. Now, what should be happening is, so user bus goes out to your Google, goes out to your Blackbaud, looks at the users in both of them, says, hey, there's this user with a blank email address. So I know I need to generate an email address for them, and I need to create an account in Google, and then I need to set their contact card email. But what it sees is there was already somebody with that email address in Google. It doesn't know if it's the same person, right? Because they could have the same name. So it needs to say, let's make sure we don't collide with these email addresses. So it looks and says, the rule we've set here is add a .1 if an email address already exists. So that's what it did, so that's great. And it also did that in Google. It claims, let's check on it. Refresh in Google. Now, great. This is so you can see this is the one we created manually, and then this is the one that it just synced, and you can tell it used the preferred name again, and it used the .1 so that it didn't clobber the existing one. And let's check Blackbaud too. And excellent. So it also used the .1 in this user's email address in Blackbaud. Now, this sync can really do more than email addresses, but this is one I wanted to focus on because this is the only sync that does that sets contact card emails in Blackbaud that I know of. There's some other Google syncs, but this is the only one that does that. So these are some of the other things it can do. Passwords, it can suspend users when they leave, and it keeps them up to date throughout the school year. If let's say somebody's name changes, or they they were a coach and then they changed to doing something else, it can move them from one org unit to another. It can change the groups that they're members of. So it keeps them up to date with whatever's in Blackbaud. All right. Now, any questions on this so far? Now, I know there's, like I said, about a 30-second delay. So if you do have any questions, go ahead and just drop them in the chat here, and I will try to answer. But yeah, this was a quick webinar because I just wanted to show that there is this out here. Because like I said, I don't believe anybody else is doing this, and this is just a nice option for schools to get their user provisioning process more end-to-end. Fewer steps where you have to go in afterwards and look at the users that it created and set their emails. Okay, so let me go. I know this was a shorter one, maybe not a whole lot that wasn't clear on it, but if there is, feel free to drop anything. Still got a couple more minutes, and also feel free to email me. I'll have my email address up here at the end, or you can book a meeting too if you're interested, just to discuss what's possible out there. Okay. All right, so our other syncs too here, just putting some up on the screen. We have a bunch of different options. Some of these are free. There's like a Google parent group sync that creates parent groups based on students. You can have like parents of Johnny Smith as a group in Google, and just a bunch of different systems that we sync to. But if you're interested in this one here, the contact card emails, there's a Google Sync form, and I think the link should be in the description here, so you can fill that out and we'll be able to get back to you. It doesn't obligate you to do the sync, even though the button at the bottom of it says request my sync. It doesn't obligate you or really sign you up. It just sends us the info. All right, that concludes it. I don't see any. Oh, I do see a question here. Oh, thanks. It looks like a great. Awesome. Well, thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, and if you're interested, we could definitely set up a demo on that. But yeah, just kind of a cool option there because this is, like I said, something that's been a gap, I think, in the past. So, and that is it. So you can contact me here. My number. This is actually my cell number. You can also on the website. There's a book a meeting with me button if you want to talk about this anymore. But I appreciate everybody being here, and I hope you have a great rest of your Friday. All right, everybody, have a great one. I'll talk to you later.